What if the person who once had everything you dreamed of ended up with nothing but a cardboard sign and a prayer? Steve Harvey adjusts his burgundy suit jacket backstage at the Family Feud studio in Atlanta, Georgia. The air conditioning hums softly as makeup artists touch up his face under bright vanity lights. It's a Tuesday afternoon in late September, and the energy is electric as always. Crew members rush past with clipboards, cameras are positioned with military precision, and the audience is already warming up in the studio. Steve glances at his watch, a gold Rolex that catches the light. 15 minutes until showtime. He's done this routine thousands of times, but today something feels different. There's a restlessness in his chest he can't quite name. His phone buzzes on the counter, a text from his assistant. "Car ready whenever you are." Steve nods to himself, running through his mental checklist. Questions memorized, energy high, smile ready. But his mind keeps drifting to something else, something he saw this morning on his drive into the city. A man on the corner of Peachtree Street holding a sign. Weathered face, hollow eyes. Something about him seemed familiar, but the light changed, and Steve's driver kept moving. The image lingered like smoke. The show goes smoothly. Families compete, laughter erupts. Steve delivers his signature reactions with perfect timing. The audience loves it. But between takes, during those brief moments when the cameras stop rolling and the studio lights dim slightly, Steve's thoughts return to that corner, to that face, to a feeling he can't shake, like a song he knows but can't remember the lyrics to. When the final family wins their prize and the applause fades, Steve walks off stage with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. Hey friends, if you're feeling this story already, do me a huge favor right now. Hit that subscribe button, even if you're watching from your TV or computer. Your subscription truly matters. And here's the big one. Click that hype button. Seriously, it helps the algorithm push this content to more people who need to hear it. Drop a like or an emoji in the comments. Let's grow this community together. Now back to what happened next. Steve changes out of his suit in his dressing room, trading it for dark jeans and a simple black sweater. The transformation is deliberate. He doesn't want to be recognized tonight. Something is pulling him back to that street corner, and he needs to go alone, without cameras, without an entourage, without the weight of celebrity. His security chief, Marcus, a former Marine with a no-nonsense attitude, tries to protest. "Boss, you know the protocol. At least let me ride with you." But Steve shakes his head. "Not tonight, Marcus. I need to do this solo." Marcus reluctantly hands over the keys to an unmarked black sedan. The Atlanta evening is cooling down as Steve drives through the city. Streetlights flicker on one by one, casting orange glows across the pavement. Traffic is moderate, the usual mix of commuters heading home and night shift workers heading out. Steve's hands grip the steering wheel tighter than necessary. He's not even sure what he's looking for. Maybe the man is gone. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe his mind is playing tricks on him. But something deeper, something instinctual, tells him to keep going. He turns onto Peachtree Street, slowing down as he approaches the intersection where he saw the man this morning. The traffic light ahead turns red, and Steve's heart rate picks up. He scans the sidewalk. A few pedestrians walk by. A woman with grocery bags, a teenager on a skateboard. And then, sitting against the brick wall of a closed pawn shop, he sees him. The man with the sign. Steve's breath catches in his throat. He pulls the car over into a loading zone, ignoring the no parking sign, and cuts the engine. For a long moment, Steve just sits there, staring through the windshield. The man's sign reads, "Homeless veteran. Anything helps. God bless." His clothes are layered and dirty, a faded army jacket over a torn hoodie. His hair is long and matted, his beard unkempt. But it's the eyes that Steve recognizes. Even from this distance, even through years of hardship and pain, he knows those eyes. His hands start to tremble. It can't be, but it is. Steve opens the car door and steps out onto the sidewalk. The city noise surrounds him, car horns, distant music, the hum of a bus passing by, but it all fades into background static. He walks slowly toward the man, each step feeling heavier than the last. Memories flood back, vivid and sharp. Cleveland, Ohio, 1975. Glenville High School, Two kids with big dreams and even bigger laughs. One of them was Steve Harvey, class clown, always performing, always hustling. The other was Michael Thompson, the smartest kid in school, destined for greatness, everyone said so. Michael doesn't look up as Steve approaches. He's staring at the ground, his sign resting against his knees. Steve stops a few feet away, his throat tight. "Michael." His voice comes out quieter than he intended. The man's head lifts slowly, confusion crossing his weathered face. For a moment, there's no recognition. Then, something shifts. His eyes widen. His mouth opens slightly. "Steve." The name comes out like a question, like he's not sure if he's dreaming. Steve nods, unable to speak. Michael struggles to his feet, his movements stiff and painful. They stand there, two men separated by decades and circumstances, yet connected by a past that suddenly feels like yesterday. "Man, is that really you?" Michael's voice cracks. Steve steps forward and pulls him into a hug, not caring about the smell, the dirt, the stares from passing strangers. "It's me, brother. It's me." They stand there on that sidewalk, holding onto each other like lifelines. Steve feels Michael's body shaking, whether from cold or emotion. He can't tell. Maybe both. When they finally pull apart, Steve sees tears streaming down Michael's face, cutting clean lines through the grime. "I can't believe it's you," Michael whispers. I thought I'd never see anyone from back then again." Steve wipes his own eyes, not bothering to hide his emotion. "What happened, man? How did you end up here?" Michael looks away, shame washing over his features. Long story. Real long story. Steve shakes his head firmly. "I got time, all the time in the world, but not here. Come on." He gestures toward the car. Michael hesitates, looking down at his dirty clothes, his worn-out shoes. "Steve, I can't. Look at me. I'll mess up your car." "I don't care about the car," Steve says, his voice firm but gentle. "I care about you. Please." Michael's resistance crumbles. He nods slowly, gathering his few belongings, a backpack that's seen better days, a sleeping bag rolled up with fraying edges. Steve helps him to the car, opening the passenger door. As Michael settles into the leather seat, Steve notices him running his hand over the armrest, like he's forgotten what comfort feels like. Steve drives in silence for a few minutes, giving Michael space to adjust. The city lights blur past the windows. Finally, Steve speaks. "You hungry?" Michael lets out a short, bitter laugh. "Man, I'm always hungry." Steve nods and changes direction, heading toward a quiet diner he knows on the outskirts of downtown. It's the kind of place that doesn't ask questions, where people mind their own business. Perfect for what they need right now. The diner is nearly empty when they arrive. A waitress with tired eyes and a kind smile shows them to a corner booth. Steve orders coffee and tells Michael to get whatever he wants. Michael's hands shake as he holds the menu, his eyes scanning the options like he's reading a foreign language. "I don't even know where to start," he admits. Steve orders for both of them. Burgers, fries, soup, pie, the works. When the waitress walks away, Steve leans forward. "Talk to me, Michael. Start from the beginning." Michael takes a deep breath, his fingers wrapping around the warm coffee mug that's just been placed in front of him. "After high school, you remember I got that scholarship to Georgia Tech?" Steve nods, he remembers. Everyone in their neighborhood celebrated. Michael was going to be an engineer, going to make something of himself, going to prove that kids from their block could do anything. "I graduated top of my class," Michael continues, his voice distant, like he's talking about someone else. "Got hired by a big firm in Houston, married my college sweetheart, Lisa, had 2 beautiful kids." Steve listens, his heart already breaking because he knows this story doesn't have a happy middle. "Everything was perfect, man. For years, everything was perfect. Big house, nice cars, respect. I thought I had it all figured out." Michael pauses as the waitress brings their food. He stares at the burger like it's a mirage. Steve gently pushes the plate closer. "Eat, brother, then keep going." Michael takes a bite, and Steve sees the emotion wash over his face. It's been a while since he's had a hot meal. After a few more bites, Michael continues. "Then the recession hit 2008, my company downsized. I lost my job. Thought it'd be temporary, you know. I'd find something else quick. But months went by, then a year. Savings dried up, had to sell the house. Lisa, she tried to stick it out, but the stress, it broke us. She took the kids and moved back to her parents in California. Steve's jaw tightens. He's heard versions of this story before, but hearing it from someone he knew, someone he grew up with, makes it devastatingly real. I spiraled after that, Michael admits, his voice barely above a whisper. Started drinking heavy, stopped looking for work, stopped caring, lost touch with everyone. My parents passed a few years back, and I wasn't even in a state to go to their funerals. My siblings, they tried to help, but I pushed them away. Pride, shame, I don't know. Maybe both. The diner feels smaller now, the walls closing in with the weight of Michael's words. Ended up in Atlanta about 3 years ago, figured I'd start fresh. But when you're living in your car, when you can't shower, when you can't put down an address on a job application, fresh starts don't come easy. One thing led to another, and here I am, sitting on street corners, hoping for enough change to eat. Steve sits back, processing everything. The Michael he knew was brilliant, ambitious, full of life. The man sitting across from him now is a shell, hollowed out by circumstances and choices, and a system that failed him. But underneath all that pain, Steve can still see his friend. Still see the kid who helped him with math homework, who laughed at his jokes, who dreamed big dreams right alongside him. "You still talk to your kids?" Steve asks gently. Michael's face crumples. "They don't know where I am. Last time Lisa heard from me was maybe 2 years ago. I was in bad shape. Said some things I regret. She told me not to contact them again until I got my life together. Can't blame her. What kind of father ends up like this?" His voice breaks on the last word. Steve reaches across the table and grabs Michael's hand. The kind that's human. The kind that got dealt some bad cards and didn't know how to play them. But that doesn't mean the game is over. Michael looks up, hope and disbelief warring in his eyes. "Steve, I appreciate this meal, man, I really do. But you got your life, your career, your family. You don't need my mess dragging you down." "Stop right there," Steve says firmly. "You're not a mess. You're my brother. And I didn't become who I am by forgetting where I came from or who walked beside me when I had nothing." He pauses, letting the words sink in. "I was homeless too, Michael. Did you know that?" Michael's eyes widen. "What?" Steve nods. "Late 80s. I was trying to make it as a comedian. Lived in my car for 3 years, showered in gas station bathrooms, washed my clothes in sinks. I know what rock bottom looks like." Michael stares at him, processing this revelation. "But you made it out." Steve nods again. "I did, with help, with people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And now I'm in a position to be that person for someone else. For you." He squeezes Michael's hand tighter. "If you're willing to let me help, I'm here all the way." Tears stream down Michael's face again, but this time they're different. Not tears of shame or despair, but something else. Something that looks like hope. "I don't deserve this," he whispers. Steve shakes his head. "It's not about deserving, it's about love, it's about humanity. It's about remembering that we're all one bad break away from that street corner." The diner's fluorescent lights cast a warm glow over their booth as Steve signals the waitress for more coffee. Michael has finished his burger and is working on the soup, each spoonful deliberate and savored. Steve watches him, remembering his own days of hunger, those nights in his 1976 Ford, when a hot meal felt like a luxury beyond reach. The parallel isn't lost on him. Life has a strange way of coming full circle, he thinks. Back then, he never imagined he'd be sitting in tailored clothes across from his high school friend, who's living the nightmare he escaped. "First thing tomorrow," Steve says, breaking the comfortable silence. "We're getting you into a hotel, somewhere clean, safe. You need rest, real rest. Then we'll figure out the next steps." Michael looks up from his soup, uncertainty flickering across his face. "Steve, I can't let you spend your money on me like that. You've already done too much." Steve waves his hand dismissively. "Money comes and goes, brother. But people, real connections, those are forever. Besides, what good is success if you can't use it to lift others up?" Michael sets down his spoon, his hand still trembling slightly. "I don't even know where to start. It's been so long since I had any structure, any purpose. Some days I wake up and forget what day it is, what month it is. Time just blurs together when you're surviving hour by hour. His voice carries the weight of someone who's been lost for so long that finding the path back seems impossible. Steve leans forward, his expression serious but compassionate. That's why you're not doing this alone. We're going to take it one step at a time. No pressure, no judgment, just forward motion. The waitress brings the check, and Steve hands her his card without looking at the total. As she walks away, Michael speaks again, his voice barely audible. You know what the hardest part is. It's not the hunger or the cold or even the looks people give you, it's the invisibility. You sit there on that corner and thousands of people walk by every day. They look right through you like you're not even human, like you're part of the scenery. After a while you start to believe it yourself, that you don't matter, that you're not worth seeing. Steve feels a lump forming in his throat. He's heard similar stories from others he's helped over the years, but hearing it from Michael cuts deeper. This was a man who once commanded respect in boardrooms, who had colleagues seeking his expertise, who had a family that loved him. The fall from that height to complete invisibility is a tragedy that plays out in cities across America every single day, yet most people never stop to truly see it. I see you, Steve says firmly, and you matter. Your life matters. Your story matters. What happened to you doesn't define your worth as a human being. Michael wipes his eyes with the back of his hand, leaving a smudge of dirt across his cheek. I want to believe that. I really do. But I've been down so long, Steve. I've forgotten what it feels like to have hope. Steve stands up, extending his hand. Then let me carry the hope for both of us until you remember how. Michael takes his hand and rises from the booth, his movement still stiff but with slightly more energy than before. The hot meal has helped. As they walk toward the exit, Steve notices the other diners watching them. He can see the questions in their eyes, the judgments forming. He puts his arm around Michael's shoulders, a clear statement that this man is with him, that he's not invisible, that he matters. The night air is cooler now as they step outside. Steve guides Michael to the car, and they drive through Atlanta's streets in contemplative silence. The city looks different at night, softer somehow, with lights twinkling from high-rise buildings and the distant sound of music drifting from bars and clubs. Steve heads toward a mid-range hotel in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place that's clean and comfortable without being ostentatious. He doesn't want Michael to feel overwhelmed. At the front desk, a young clerk with bright eyes and a professional smile greets them. Steve can see her taking in Michael's appearance, her smile faltering slightly before she recovers her composure. I need a room for my friend here, Steve says, his tone leaving no room for questions. Something comfortable, he'll be staying for a while. The clerk nods, typing on her computer. Of course, sir. How long will the reservation be for? Let's start with 2 weeks, Steve says, pulling out his credit card. We'll extend if needed. He turns to Michael. That gives us time to get everything sorted out. Michael stands beside him, looking around the lobby like he's in a dream. The marble floors, the soft lighting, the gentle piano music playing from hidden speakers. It's all so far removed from the concrete sidewalks and cardboard beds he's grown accustomed to. The clerk hands over a key card, and Steve leads Michael to the elevator. They ride up to the 3rd floor in silence. When they reach room 312, Steve opens the door and gestures for Michael to enter first. The room is modest but clean, with a queen-sized bed covered in crisp white linens, a small desk, a television, and a bathroom with gleaming fixtures. Michael stands in the doorway, frozen. Go on, Steve encourages gently. Michael takes a tentative step inside, then another. He walks to the bed and sits down slowly, running his hand over the comforter. His eyes fill with tears again. I haven't slept in a real bed in over a year, he whispers. Steve sits down beside him, the mattress dipping slightly under their combined weight. Well, tonight you will, and tomorrow night, and the night after that. They sit there for a moment, 2 men processing the enormity of what's happening. Finally, Steve stands and walks to the bathroom, returning with a stack of fresh towels. Take a long shower. Use all the hot water you want. There are toiletries in there, soap, shampoo, everything you need. I'm going to run out and get you some clothes, some essentials. What size are you now? Michael looks down at himself as if seeing his body for the first time in months. I don't even know anymore. I've lost a lot of weight. Steve nods, making mental calculations. I'll get a few different sizes, we'll figure it out. He pulls out his phone and starts typing notes. Anything specific you need? Medications, anything like that? Michael shakes his head. I haven't been able to afford medications in years. I have high blood pressure, or at least I did. And my knees are pretty bad from sleeping on concrete. Steve adds this to his notes. We'll get you to a doctor this week, get you checked out properly, get you back on any medications you need. He can see Michael about to protest, so he holds up his hand. No arguments, this is happening. Steve heads toward the door, then pauses and turns back. Michael, I need you to promise me something. Michael looks up, his expression wary. What? Steve's voice is serious. Promise me you'll be here when I get back, that you won't run. I know this is overwhelming, and I know part of you probably feels like you don't deserve this, but promise me you'll stay. Michael's throat works as he swallows hard. For a long moment he doesn't speak. Steve can see the internal battle playing out, the years of shame and self-loathing warring against the desperate need for help, for connection, for a lifeline. Finally, Michael nods. I promise. I'll be here. Steve smiles, relief washing over his features. Good. I'll be back in an hour. Order room service if you're still hungry. Order whatever you want. It's all taken care of. As Steve leaves the room and walks back to the elevator, he pulls out his phone and calls his wife Marjorie. She answers on the second ring, her voice warm and familiar. Hey, baby. How was the show? Steve leans against the elevator wall as it descends. Show was fine, but something happened after. Something big. He proceeds to tell her about finding Michael, about their conversation, about the hotel room and his plans to help. Marjorie listens without interrupting, a quality Steve has always loved about her. When he finishes, she's quiet for a moment before speaking. You did the right thing. You always do. What do you need from me? Steve feels a surge of gratitude for this woman who understands him so completely. I'm going shopping for clothes and supplies. Then tomorrow I need to start making calls, get him into a good rehab program if he needs it, find him a therapist, get him medical care. I want to do this right. We'll do it together, Marjorie corrects gently. You're not in this alone either, Steve. We have resources, connections. Let me make some calls tonight. I know a great counselor who specializes in trauma and homelessness, and I'll reach out to that job placement program we donated to last year. They help people get back into the workforce. Steve feels his chest tighten with emotion. What did I do to deserve you? Marjorie laughs softly. You saw someone who needed help and you didn't look away. That's who you are, Steve Harvey. That's who you've always been. Now go get your friend what he needs. I'll have a plan ready by morning. They say their goodbyes, and Steve pockets his phone, feeling more determined than ever. He drives to a nearby Target that's open late, grabbing a cart and moving through the aisles with purpose. He fills the cart with essentials: underwear, socks, t-shirts, jeans, a warm jacket, sneakers, toiletries, a phone charger, a simple smartphone, notebooks, pens. He adds comfort items too: a soft blanket, good pillows, snacks, bottled water, a Bible. As he shops, other customers glance at his overflowing cart with curiosity, but Steve doesn't care. He's on a mission. At the checkout, the cashier, an older woman with kind eyes and grey hair pulled back in a bun, rings up his items. Someone's lucky to have a friend like you, she comments, nodding at the pile of men's clothing and supplies. Steve smiles. I'm the lucky one. I get to help someone who once would have done the same for me. The woman's eyes soften. The world needs more people like you, sir. Steve drives back to the hotel, his car loaded with bags. He takes the elevator back up to the third floor, balancing the shopping bags as he knocks on Michael's door. There's a long pause, and for a terrifying moment Steve worries that Michael has left, that the promise was broken. But then he hears movement inside, and the door opens. Michael stands there in a hotel bathrobe, his hair wet and combed back, his face clean-shaven. The transformation is startling. Michael, Steve says, almost not recognizing him. Without the layers of dirt and the wild beard, he looks more like the young man Steve remembers. Older, yes, with lines etched deep by hardship, but recognizably Michael Thompson. I found a razor in the bathroom, Michael explains, touching his smooth jaw self-consciously. Figured it was time to see my own face again. Steve steps inside, setting the bags down on the desk. Man, you look good. I mean, you look like you again. Michael's eyes scan the bags, widening as he realizes how much Steve has brought. Steve, this is too much. But Steve is already unpacking, laying out clothes on the bed. Try these on, we'll see what fits. He pulls out the smartphone, still in its box. And this is for you. Already activated. My number's programmed in. You need anything, day or night, you call me. Michael picks up a t-shirt, feeling the soft fabric between his fingers. I don't know what to say. Steve stops unpacking and looks at him directly. You don't have to say anything. Just accept the help. Just take the next step forward, that's all I'm asking. Michael nods, emotion threatening to overwhelm him again. He takes the pile of clothes Steve hands him and goes into the bathroom to change. When he emerges a few minutes later, wearing jeans that fit reasonably well and a dark blue t-shirt, he looks even more transformed. Steve hands him the jacket and the new sneakers. How do they feel? Michael walks around the room testing the shoes. Like I'm walking on clouds. I forgot what good shoes feel like. He sits down on the bed looking at Steve with an expression of profound gratitude mixed with disbelief. Why are you doing all this? Really? Steve sits down in the desk chair, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. You want the honest truth? Michael nods. Because I remember who I was before I made it. I remember the people who helped me when I had nothing. A club owner who let me sleep in the back room. A waitress who gave me free meals. A stranger who handed me $20 when I was pumping gas into my car that I was living in. Those small acts of kindness kept me alive, kept me going. He pauses, gathering his thoughts. But more than that, I remember you, Michael. I remember you tutoring me in algebra when I was failing. I remember you lending me money for lunch when I didn't have any. I remember you standing up for me when some guys wanted to fight me after school. You were there for me when we were kids. Now it's my turn to be there for you. Michael's face crumples, and this time he doesn't try to hide his tears. I don't feel like that person anymore. That Michael Thompson who had it together, who helped people, who was somebody. I feel like I lost him somewhere along the way. Steve stands and walks over, placing a hand on Michael's shoulder. He's not lost. He's just buried under a lot of pain and hard years. But we're going to dig him out, together. They talk late into the night, Steve sitting in the chair, Michael on the bed, sharing memories from their youth. They laugh about their old teachers, about the girls they had crushes on, about the dreams they shared sitting on Michael's front porch on summer evenings. For a few hours the weight of the present lifts, and they're just two old friends reconnecting. But eventually, exhaustion catches up with them both. Steve stands, stretching. I should let you get some sleep. Real sleep. Michael stands too, suddenly looking panicked. You're leaving. Steve hears the fear in his voice, the worry that this is all temporary, that he'll wake up tomorrow back on that street corner and realize it was all a dream. Just for tonight. I'll be back first thing in the morning. We have appointments to set up, plans to make, but you need rest, and so do I. Michael walks him to the door, and they stand there for a moment. Thank you, Steve, for seeing me, for remembering me, for caring. Steve pulls him into another hug. Always, brother, always. As he walks down the hallway toward the elevator, Steve feels the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. This isn't just about a hotel room and some clothes. This is about helping a man rebuild his entire life. It's a long road ahead, but Steve has never been one to back down from a challenge, especially when it matters this much. He drives home through the quiet Atlanta streets, his mind already working through the logistics. Medical appointments, therapy sessions, job training, reconnecting with family. It's overwhelming, but it's also necessary. When he finally pulls into his driveway and walks into his house, Marjorie is waiting up for him in the living room, a notepad in her lap, covered with her neat handwriting. I made some calls, she says, patting the couch beside her. Steve sits down and she shows him her notes. Dr. Patricia Williams, she's a trauma specialist who works with homeless populations. She can see Michael on Thursday. I also contacted the New Beginnings program. They do job training and placement. They have an opening in their next cohort starting in 2 weeks, and I found a great primary care doctor who can do a full physical and get him back on medications. Steve looks at his wife with pure love. You're amazing, you know that? Marjorie smiles. I know, but so are you. Not everyone would stop their life to help an old friend like this. Steve shakes his head. It's not stopping my life. It's living it the way it's meant to be lived. What good is all this success, all this money, all this influence if I can't use it to make a real difference? They sit together in comfortable silence for a while, Steve's head resting on Marjorie's shoulder. Finally, she speaks. What's your end goal here? I mean, beyond the immediate help. What do you see for Michael's future? Steve considers this. I see him whole again. I see him reconciled with his kids. I see him working, contributing, feeling like he has purpose. I see him looking in the mirror and recognizing himself again. That's a beautiful vision, Marjorie says softly. And knowing you, you'll make it happen. Steve hopes she's right. As they head upstairs to bed, he sends Michael a text. Sleep well, brother. Tomorrow is a new day, a new beginning. I'll see you at 9 a.m. A few minutes later, his phone buzzes with a response. Thank you doesn't seem like enough, but thank you. See you tomorrow. Steve sets his phone on the nightstand and closes his eyes, but sleep doesn't come easily. His mind keeps replaying the day's events, from that first glimpse of Michael on the street corner to the transformation in the hotel room. He thinks about all the other Michaels out there, people with stories and histories and worth, reduced to invisibility by circumstances and systems that failed them. He can't help them all, but he can help this one. And maybe, just maybe, by sharing this story, he can inspire others to see the invisible people in their own lives. Morning arrives with pale sunlight filtering through Steve's bedroom windows. He's awake before his alarm, his mind already focused on the day ahead. Marjorie stirs beside him, and they share a quiet moment before the household comes alive with activity. Steve showers and dresses casually, jeans and a polo shirt, wanting to keep things low-key. Today isn't about Steve Harvey, the celebrity. It's about Steve Harvey, the friend. He arrives at the hotel at exactly 9 o'clock, carrying 2 large coffees and a bag of breakfast sandwiches from a local cafe. When he knocks on Michael's door, it opens almost immediately, as if Michael has been waiting by the entrance. He's wearing the clothes from last night, and his eyes are clearer than they were yesterday, though still carrying the exhaustion of someone who hasn't truly rested in years. Morning, Steve says, handing him a coffee. Hope you like it black. I wasn't sure how you take it anymore. Michael accepts the cup gratefully, wrapping both hands around its warmth. Black is perfect. I haven't had good coffee in forever. They sit at the small table by the window, and Steve unpacks the breakfast sandwiches. As they eat, Steve pulls out his phone and shows Michael the schedule Marjorie has created. Okay, so here's the plan. Today we're getting you a full medical checkup. I've got an appointment set up with Dr. Raymond Chen at 11. He's going to do blood work, check your blood pressure, look at those knees you mentioned, the whole 9 yards. Michael chews slowly, processing this information. That's going to be expensive, Steve. I don't have insurance, obviously. Steve waves this away. Already handled. Don't worry about the money side of things. Your only job is to show up and be honest with the doctors about what's going on with your body. He scrolls through his phone. Tomorrow you're meeting with Dr. Patricia Williams. She's a therapist who specializes in trauma. Marjorie found her, says she's the best. A therapist? Michael's voice carries a hint of resistance. Steve looks up, meeting his eyes. Brother, you've been through hell. Nobody gets through that without some scars, the kind you can't see. Talking to someone who understands, who can help you process everything, that's not weakness, that's strength. That's you doing the work to heal. Michael is quiet for a moment, then nods slowly. You're right. I know you're right. It's just hard to admit I need that kind of help. We all need help sometimes, Steve says gently. I've been in therapy on and off for years. It's helped me deal with my own stuff, my childhood, the years of struggle, the pressure of fame. There's no shame in it. He takes a sip of his coffee. And next week, we're getting you enrolled in a job training program, New Beginnings it's called. They work with people who've been out of the workforce for a while, help them update their skills, build confidence, connect with employers who are willing to give second chances. Michael sets down his sandwich, suddenly looking overwhelmed. This is all happening so fast. Yesterday I was on a street corner. Today I'm scheduling therapy and job training. It feels surreal. Steve reaches across the table and grips his shoulder. I know it's a lot. But here's the thing about momentum. Once you start moving in the right direction, you keep going. If we wait, if we take it too slow, It's easy to slip back into old patterns. We're going to strike while the iron is hot. They finish breakfast, and Steve notices Michael eating more slowly than yesterday, actually tasting the food rather than just consuming it out of desperate hunger. It's a small sign, but a good one. At 10:30, they head down to Steve's car and drive across town to Dr. Chen's office. The medical building is modern and clean, with a bright waiting room filled with plants and soft music. Michael looks uncomfortable as they check in, his body language screaming that he doesn't belong in a place like this. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck, smiles warmly at them. "Mr. Thompson, Dr. Chen is ready for you." Steve stands to go back with him, but Michael shakes his head. "I need to do this part alone." "If that's okay." Steve understands. There's dignity in facing your health issues privately. "Of course. I'll be right here." He watches Michael disappear through the door, then settles into a waiting room chair, pulling out his phone to catch up on emails. An hour passes before Michael emerges, looking drained but somehow lighter. Steve stands immediately. "How'd it go?" Michael holds up a handful of prescription papers. "He's putting me back on blood pressure medication, gave me something for anxiety, and referred me to an orthopedic specialist for my knees. Also said I'm malnourished and anemic, which I guess isn't surprising. He wants to see me again in 2 weeks to check my progress." They stop at a pharmacy on the way back to the hotel, and Steve watches as Michael stares at the rows of medications behind the counter with an expression of disbelief. "I used to take these things for granted," he says quietly. "Pop a pill, feel better, no big deal. Now it feels like a luxury." The pharmacist calls his name and Steve pays for the prescriptions, while Michael carefully reads the instructions on each bottle. Back in the car, Michael is quiet, staring out the window as Atlanta passes by. Finally, he speaks. "The doctor asked me about my living situation. I didn't know what to tell him. I mean, I'm in a hotel right now, but that's temporary. I can't stay there forever on your dime. Eventually, I need to figure out where I'm actually going to live." Steve has been thinking about this too. One step at a time. Let's get you healthy, get you through the therapy, get you trained up and employed. Then we'll tackle housing. I've got some ideas, but we need to build the foundation first. "What kind of ideas?" Michael asks. Steve glances at him. "There's a transitional housing program I've donated to. It's for people getting back on their feet. Clean apartments, supportive services, affordable rent based on income. Once you're working, you could move into one of those places. It's not charity, it's a hand up. You'd be paying your own way, just at a rate you can actually afford while you rebuild." Michael absorbs this information, and Steve can see him trying to imagine a future that seems impossibly far away. "And what about my kids? My ex-wife? How do I even begin to approach them after all this time, after everything I put them through?" His voice cracks on the last words. Steve pulls into a parking lot and turns off the engine, giving this conversation the attention it deserves. "That's going to be the hardest part," Steve admits. "Rebuilding trust with the people you hurt, even if you didn't mean to hurt them. That takes time. But here's what I know. People want to forgive. They want to believe in redemption. Your kids, they're going to want their father back. But you have to show them through actions, not just words, that you're serious about change, that you're doing the work." Michael wipes his eyes. "What if they don't want to see me? What if too much time has passed?" Steve turns in his seat to face him fully. "Then you respect that and you keep working on yourself anyway. You don't get better for them. You get better for you. If they come around, that's a blessing. If they don't, at least you know you tried. At least you know you became the man you were meant to be, even if they never see it." They sit in that parking lot for another 20 minutes, talking through Michael's fears and hopes. Steve shares his own experiences with family reconciliation, the mistakes he made as a younger man, the relationships he had to repair. "I wasn't always the man I am now," Steve confesses. "I had to grow, had to learn, had to make amends. It's a process and it's humbling, but it's worth it." Eventually, they drive back to the hotel. Steve has afternoon meetings he can't cancel, but he doesn't want to leave Michael alone for too long. Not yet. "What are you going to do this afternoon?" he asks as they ride the elevator up. Michael shrugs. "Honestly, I might just sleep. Real sleep. In a real bed. I'm exhausted in a way I can't even explain. It's like now that I'm safe, my body is finally admitting how tired it is. That's good, Steve says. Rest is part of healing. But tonight, I want you to do something for me. He pulls out the notebook he bought yesterday from one of the shopping bags still in Michael's room. I want you to write about your journey, about what happened, about how you felt. Don't worry about grammar or making it pretty. Just get it out. Sometimes seeing your story on paper helps you understand it better. Michael takes the notebook, running his hand over the cover. I'm not much of a writer. Steve smiles. You don't have to be. This is just for you. Although, he pauses, an idea forming. If you're ever comfortable with it, your story could help other people. Let them know they're not alone. Let them see that recovery is possible. Michael looks uncertain but nods. Maybe. Someday. Let me get my own head straight first. Steve leaves him with a reminder to take his new medications and a promise to check in later. As he drives to his office for afternoon meetings, his mind is split between his professional obligations and his personal mission. During a break between meetings, he calls Marjorie. How's he doing? She asks immediately. Steve fills her in on the doctor's appointment and their conversations. I'm worried about the family piece, Steve admits. That's going to be the toughest part of this whole thing. How do you reach out to kids you haven't seen in years? How do you explain where you've been? Marjorie is thoughtful. Maybe that's something Dr. Williams can help with. She can guide him through that process, help him figure out the right approach and timing. He shouldn't rush it. You're right, Steve agrees. I just want to fix everything for him right now. But I know that's not realistic. Marjorie laughs softly. That's because you have a hero complex, baby. You want to swoop in and save everyone. But real healing takes time. You're giving him the tools and the support. The rest is up to him. Steve knows she's right, but patience has never been his strongest virtue. That evening, after his meetings wrap up, Steve stops by a bookstore. He wanders through the self-help section, picking out books on recovery, resilience, and rebuilding your life. He adds a few inspirational biographies, stories of people who overcame incredible odds. At the register, the young clerk comments on his selections. Someone's on a journey, she observes. Steve smiles. Something like that. He drives back to the hotel, finding Michael awake and sitting at the desk with the notebook open in front of him. Several pages are filled with Michael's cramped handwriting. You actually did it, Steve says, surprised and pleased. Michael looks up, almost embarrassed. Once I started, I couldn't stop. It all just poured out. Things I haven't thought about in years, feelings I've been pushing down. It was intense. Steve sets the bag of books on the bed. These are for you. Different perspectives on recovery and change. Read them when you're ready. Michael stands and looks through the books, his expression softening. Man, you think of everything. Steve shrugs. I just remember what helped me during my dark times. Books were lifelines when I had nothing else. They order dinner from room service, and as they eat, Michael shares some of what he wrote. Not everything. Some of it is still too raw, but enough to give Steve a window into his internal world. He talks about the shame that paralyzed him, the way pride prevented him from asking for help until it was too late, the slow descent from middle-class stability to homelessness that happened so gradually he didn't realize how far he'd fallen until he was at the bottom. The worst part was losing my identity, Michael says, pushing rice around his plate. I wasn't Michael Thompson, engineer, father, husband anymore. I was just another homeless guy, another statistic, another person to avoid making eye contact with. You forget who you were. You forget you were ever anything other than this. His words hang in the air, heavy with truth. Steve listens without interrupting, understanding that Michael needs to voice these things, needs to be heard. When Michael finishes, Steve speaks carefully. But you're still Michael Thompson. You always were. The circumstances changed, but the core of who you are, that didn't disappear. It got buried, like we talked about. But we're digging it out. Every day we're digging a little more. Michael meets his eyes and Steve sees something shifting there. A spark of belief, maybe. A tiny flame of hope that's starting to catch. I want to believe that. I'm trying to believe that. Steve nods. That's all you need to do right now. Try. Show up. Do the next right thing. The belief will grow, as you see the evidence of your own progress. They talk late into the evening again, but this time the conversation is different. Less about the past, more about the future. Michael asks about the job training program, what it involves, what kind of work he might be qualified for. Steve explains that his engineering degree, even though it's old, still has value. With some updated training in modern software and practices, he could potentially get back into his field, or at least into something related. There are companies that specifically hire people who've faced adversity, Steve explains. They understand that a gap in employment doesn't mean a gap in capability. They're willing to invest in people who are serious about rebuilding. And with your education and experience, even if it's dated, you've got a foundation that a lot of people don't have. Michael looks doubtful. I'm 52 years old, Steve. I've been out of the game for over a decade. Who's going to hire me? Steve leans forward intently. Someone who values resilience. Someone who understands that life knocks people down, and what matters is whether they get back up. Someone who's willing to look past the surface and see the potential. Those people exist, Michael. I know because I'm one of them, and I'm not unique. As Steve prepares to leave for the night, Michael walks him to the door again. This time, there's less fear in his goodbye. He's starting to trust that this is real, that Steve will come back, that this isn't all going to evaporate. Tomorrow's therapy, Steve reminds him. I'll pick you up at 10. Dr. Williams is going to ask you hard questions, make you face hard truths. It's not going to be comfortable. Nothing worth doing ever is, Michael replies, and Steve hears an echo of the old Michael in those words, the one who tackled challenges head-on. That's the spirit. Get some rest, take your meds, and keep writing if you feel like it. I'll see you in the morning. As Steve drives home, he feels a sense of cautious optimism. The road ahead is still long, and there will be setbacks, he knows that. But Michael is engaging with the process. He's not running. He's not giving up. That's more than half the battle. At home, Marjorie is in bed reading when Steve comes in. He fills her in on the evening, and she listens with the patient attention she always gives him. You're doing good work, she says when he finishes. But remember to take care of yourself too. You can't pour from an empty cup. Steve knows she's right. He's been so focused on Michael that he hasn't thought about the emotional toll this is taking on him. It brings up a lot of my own stuff, he admits, sitting on the edge of the bed. Memories of when I was struggling, when I didn't know if I'd make it. I thought I'd processed all that, but seeing Michael, it's like reopening old wounds. Marjorie sets down her book and takes his hand. Maybe that's part of why you're so driven to help him. You're not just saving him, you're saving that younger version of yourself. Steve considers this. There's truth in it. Every time he looks at Michael, he sees himself at 28, living in his car, wondering if his dreams were delusions. Maybe, he says quietly, or maybe I'm just trying to be the person I needed back then, the one who saw me, who believed in me, who gave me a chance. Marjorie squeezes his hand. You're being exactly that, and it's beautiful to watch. The next morning arrives with rain, a steady drizzle that makes Atlanta's streets gleam. Steve picks up Michael right on time, and they drive through the wet city to Dr. Williams's office. It's in a converted house in a quiet neighborhood, with a cozy waiting room that feels more like someone's living room than a medical facility. Michael is visibly nervous, his leg bouncing as they wait. When Dr. Williams emerges to greet them, she's a woman in her 50s with warm brown skin, silver-streaked hair pulled back in a bun, and eyes that radiate compassion without pity. Michael, I'm Patricia. Come on back. She looks at Steve. You're welcome to join us for the first few minutes if Michael is comfortable with that, just for introductions. Michael nods, and they follow her to her office. The room is painted in soft earth tones, with comfortable chairs, plants in the corners, and artwork that feels calming. Dr. Williams gestures for them to sit. So, Steve has given me a brief overview of your situation, Michael, but I'd like to hear from you. What brings you here today? Michael glances at Steve, who gives him an encouraging nod. I guess I'm here because I need help putting my life back together, and because Steve won't take no for an answer. Dr. Williams smiles. Good friends are like that, but I need to know, do you want to be here, not for Steve, but for yourself? Michael is quiet, really thinking about the question. Finally, he nods. Yeah, I do. I'm tired of being lost. I'm tired of feeling like I don't matter. I want to find my way back to being someone I can respect. Dr. Williams nods approvingly. That's a good starting place. That's honest. Steve stands, recognizing his cue to leave. I'll be in the waiting room. Take your time. As he closes the door behind him, he sends up a silent prayer that this will be the beginning of real healing for his friend. He settles into the waiting room with his phone, trying to focus on work emails, but his mind keeps drifting to what's happening behind that closed door. 45 minutes later, Michael emerges looking emotionally wrung out, but somehow more present. His eyes are red, but there's a clarity in them that wasn't there before. They schedule another appointment for the following week, and Dr. Williams pulls Steve aside briefly. He's going to need consistent support, she says quietly. What he's been through, the trauma of homelessness, the loss of identity, the shame, that's deep work. But he's willing, and that's everything. In the car, Michael is quiet for a long time. Steve doesn't push, just drives through the rainy streets, letting his friend process. Finally, Michael speaks. She asked me when I stopped believing I deserved good things. I couldn't answer. I don't know when it happened. It was gradual, like everything else. One day I just realized I'd stopped hoping for anything better. His voice is thick with emotion. Steve pulls into a coffee shop parking lot, wanting to give this conversation proper attention. And what did she say to that? Michael wipes his eyes. She said that deserving isn't the right framework. That every human being has inherent worth regardless of their circumstances or mistakes. That I don't have to earn the right to be treated with dignity. I just have to accept it. He laughs bitterly. Easier said than done. Everything is, Steve agrees. But you're doing it. You showed up today. You were honest. You're taking the medications. You're writing in that notebook. You're doing the work, Michael. That's what matters. They sit in the parking lot, rain drumming on the roof of the car, two men processing heavy truths in the safety of friendship. The rain continues through the afternoon, creating a rhythmic backdrop as Steve and Michael sit in that coffee shop parking lot. Eventually, Steve suggests they go inside, get something warm to drink, sit somewhere comfortable. They find a corner table away from the other customers, and Steve orders them both hot chocolate, something comforting and simple. Michael wraps his hands around the mug, staring into the dark liquid topped with whipped cream like he's searching for answers there. Dr. Williams wants me to make a list, Michael says after a long silence. A list of all the things I've lost and all the things I still have. She says I'm so focused on what's gone that I can't see what remains. He looks up at Steve. I started thinking about it in her office, and honestly, the lost column is a lot longer than the still have column. That's depressing as hell. Steve takes a sip of his hot chocolate, considering his words carefully. What's on the still have side? Michael thinks for a moment. My education, I guess. My memories, the good ones anyway. My health, or what's left of it. And apparently a friend who refuses to give up on me. His voice cracks on the last part. That's more than a lot of people have, brother. That's a foundation to build on. They spend the next hour talking through Michael's lists, and Steve helps him see things he's overlooking. You still have your intelligence, your work ethic, your ability to learn. You still have time, Michael. You're 52, not 92. You've got decades ahead of you to write a different story. Michael seems to absorb this, his expression shifting from despair to something that might be cautious possibility. As the afternoon wears on, Steve realizes he needs to address something that's been on his mind. I want to talk about the next few weeks. The job training program starts in 10 days. Between now and then, we need to get you stable, physically and mentally. That means regular meals, regular sleep, taking your meds, going to therapy, maybe some light exercise to start building your strength back up. Michael nods, listening intently. But I also think you need something else, Steve continues. You need purpose, you need to feel useful. So I've been thinking, how would you feel about volunteering somewhere? Nothing intense, just a few hours a week. It would get you out of that hotel room, give you structure, let you contribute something. Michael looks surprised. Volunteer? Doing what? I don't exactly have marketable skills right now. Steve pulls out his phone and shows him a website. There's a community center not far from your hotel. They do after-school tutoring for kids who are struggling in math and science. With your engineering background, you'd be perfect. It's just 2 afternoons a week, a couple hours each time. What do you think? Michael stares at the screen, and Steve can see the wheels turning in his mind. "I haven't been around kids in years," Michael says slowly. "Not since my own were young. What if I'm not good at it anymore? What if I mess it up?" Steve locks eyes with him. "Then you'll learn and get better, but I don't think you will mess it up. I think you'll be great at it. Kids need positive male role models, especially kids from tough backgrounds. You understand struggle now in a way you never did before. That's not a weakness, Michael, that's wisdom." Michael is quiet for a long moment, then nods slowly. "Okay. Yeah, I'll try it. When can I start?" Steve grins, pleased. "I'll call them this afternoon, get you set up. Probably next week sometime." He can already see the shift in Michael's posture, the way having something to look forward to, something to contribute, changes his energy. Purpose is powerful medicine. They leave the coffee shop as the rain begins to let up, and Steve drives Michael back to the hotel. Before Michael gets out of the car, Steve hands him an envelope. "What's this?" Michael asks, opening it to find several $100s in cash. "Just some walking around money. For food, for anything you need. I know ordering room service every meal gets old. This gives you freedom to go out, grab lunch somewhere, feel normal." Michael tries to hand it back. "Steve, you've already spent so much on me. I can't keep taking your money." Steve refuses to take the envelope. "It's not about the money, Michael. It's about dignity. It's about you being able to make choices, have autonomy. Take it. Use it. When you're working and earning again, you can pay it forward to someone else who needs it." Michael reluctantly pockets the envelope, his eyes glistening. Over the next several days, a routine develops. Steve checks in every morning, sometimes in person, sometimes by phone. Michael attends his therapy sessions, takes his medications religiously, and starts venturing out of the hotel on his own. He discovers a small park nearby where he sits and writes in his notebook. He finds a diner where the waitress learns his name and his order. Small steps, but each one matters. On Thursday, Steve takes Michael to the community center to meet the director, an energetic woman named Sharon who runs the tutoring program. She's in her 40s, with kind eyes and an infectious enthusiasm. "We're so glad to have you, Michael," she says, shaking his hand firmly. "Steve tells me you have an engineering degree from Georgia Tech. That's impressive. Our kids are going to love working with you." Sharon shows them around the facility, a converted warehouse with bright murals on the walls, tables set up for studying, shelves full of books and supplies. Kids of various ages are scattered around, some doing homework, some playing games, all supervised by volunteers and staff. Michael watches them with an expression Steve can't quite read. Later, in the car, Michael admits, "Seeing those kids, it made me think of my own. Made me wonder what they're doing right now, if they're okay, if they ever think about me." "I'm sure they do," Steve says gently. "Kids don't forget their parents, no matter how much time passes." Michael stares out the window. "My daughter, Jessica, she'd be 26 now. My son, Marcus, he'd be 23, adults. I've missed so much of their lives, their graduations, their first jobs, relationships, everything. How do you come back from that?" Steve doesn't have an easy answer. "One day at a time, one honest conversation at a time, but not yet. You're not ready yet, and that's okay. You need to be solid in your own recovery before you can handle the emotional weight of reconnecting with them. Dr. Williams will help you figure out the right timing." Michael nods, but Steve can see the longing in his face, the desperate desire to bridge that gap. The following Monday, Michael starts his first day of volunteering. Steve offers to go with him, but Michael declines. "I need to do this on my own. Prove to myself I can show up, be reliable, be useful." Steve understands and respects this. He drops Michael off and watches him walk into the community center with his shoulders a little straighter than they were a week ago, his steps a little more confident. 2 hours later, Michael calls him, and Steve can hear the smile in his voice. "Man, these kids are something else. I worked with 3 of them today on algebra. One of them, this girl named Destiny, she was so frustrated she was almost crying. But we worked through it together, and when she finally got it, when that light bulb went on, her whole face lit up. I forgot what that felt like, helping someone understand something, making a difference." Steve feels his own eyes getting misty. "That's beautiful, brother. That's you getting back to who you are." They talk for a few more minutes, and when they hang up, Steve sits in his office with a profound sense of gratitude. This is working. Slowly, carefully, but it's working. Michael is coming back to life. That evening, Steve comes home to find Marjorie in the kitchen preparing dinner. He wraps his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Thank you," he murmurs, "for supporting this, for helping me help him, for understanding why it matters so much." Marjorie turns in his arms, cupping his face. "You don't have to thank me. This is who you are. This is who we are. We lift people up. That's our purpose." They eat dinner together, and Steve fills her in on Michael's progress. "I've been thinking," Marjorie says, twirling pasta on her fork. "Once Michael is more stable, once he's working and settled, maybe we could help him plan a trip to California, to see his kids. We could go with him if he wants support, or he could go alone. But we could make it possible financially, take that barrier away." Steve looks at his wife with renewed love. "That's a beautiful idea. Let's keep that in our back pocket for when the time is right." The next few days bring more progress. Michael's second therapy session goes even deeper than the first, and though it leaves him emotionally exhausted, he tells Steve it feels like he's lancing an infected wound, painful but necessary for healing. His second volunteering session goes well, and Sharon pulls Steve aside to tell him that Michael is a natural with the kids, patient and encouraging. On Friday, exactly 2 weeks after Steve found Michael on that street corner, they sit together in Michael's hotel room, and Steve presents him with a folder. "What's this?" Michael asks, opening it. Inside are documents for the New Beginnings job training program, a schedule, a list of required materials, and a welcome letter. "Your program starts Monday. You're officially enrolled." Michael reads through the papers, his hands shaking slightly. "This is really happening. I'm really doing this." Steve nods. "You really are. It's a 6-week intensive program. They'll update your technical skills, teach you modern software, help you build a resume, practice interviewing, all of it. And at the end, they have partnerships with companies that are actively hiring. You do well in this program, Michael, and you'll have job offers. What if I fail?" The question comes out small, vulnerable. Steve moves to sit beside him on the bed. "Then you try again, but you won't fail. You're too smart, too determined. You've already overcome the hardest part, which was accepting help and committing to change. The rest is just showing up and doing the work, and I know you can do that." Michael sets the folder down and turns to Steve. "I need to say something, and I need you to really hear me." Steve nods, giving him his full attention. "2 weeks ago, I was ready to give up, not just on finding a job or a place to live, but on life. I was so tired, Steve, so tired of fighting, of hurting, of being invisible. I don't know how much longer I would have lasted out there." His voice breaks, but he pushes through. "And then you showed up. You saw me. You remembered me. You gave me a reason to keep going. You gave me hope when I had none left. I don't know if I'll ever be able to repay you, but I want you to know that you saved my life. Literally saved my life." Tears stream down both their faces now, and Steve pulls Michael into a tight embrace. "You don't owe me anything," Steve says, his voice thick with emotion. "You being here, doing the work, fighting for your life, that's all the repayment I need. You matter, Michael. Your life matters. Your story matters. And it's not over. This is just the beginning of your comeback." They sit there, 2 grown men crying together, releasing years of pain and fear and hope. When they finally pull apart, both wiping their eyes and laughing at themselves, the atmosphere in the room has shifted. There's a lightness that wasn't there before, a sense of possibility. Steve stands and walks to the window, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. "You know what I think?" he says, not turning around. "I think you're going to do more than just get back on your feet. I think you're going to thrive. I think you're going to help other people who are where you were. I think your story is going to inspire people." Michael joins him at the window. "That's a nice thought, but right now I'm just focused on making it through each day, doing the next right thing." Steve turns to him. "That's exactly right. That's all any of us can do. But I'm telling you, I see something in you. A strength that's been forged in fire. You're going to be okay, Michael, more than okay." They spend the rest of the evening planning for the week ahead. Steve helps Michael organize his schedule, therapy on Tuesday and Thursday, volunteering on Monday and Wednesday afternoons, job training Monday through Friday mornings. It's a full schedule, but that's intentional. Structure and purpose are crucial for recovery. Before Steve leaves, he reminds Michael to set his alarm, to lay out his clothes for Monday to get good sleep. That weekend, Steve gives Michael space, checking in by text but not visiting. Michael needs to practice being alone without being lonely, needs to build confidence in his ability to manage his own time and choices. On Sunday evening, Michael texts Steve a photo of his outfit laid out for the next day. Dress pants and a button-down shirt from their shopping trip, with the caption, "Ready for day one." Steve shows the photo to Marjorie, and they both smile. "He's really doing it," she says softly. "He's really turning his life around." Steve nods, feeling a swell of pride for his friend. "Yeah, he is. With help, with support. But ultimately, he's doing the work. That's all him." Marjorie kisses his cheek. "And you gave him the chance to do that work. Never underestimate the power of seeing someone, really seeing them." Monday morning arrives bright and clear, the rain from the previous week giving way to sunshine. Steve picks Michael up at 7:30, and they drive to the New Beginnings facility across town. Michael is nervous, his leg bouncing in the passenger seat, but there's also excitement in his eyes. "What if I'm the oldest one there?" he worries. "What if everyone else is younger, smarter, more tech-savvy?" "Then you'll learn from them," Steve says calmly, "and they'll learn from you. You have life experience they don't have. You have education they might not have. Everyone brings something to the table, Michael. Focus on what you can contribute, not on what you lack." Michael takes a deep breath and nods, visibly trying to calm himself. They arrive at the facility, a modern building with glass walls and an open, welcoming lobby. A woman with a clipboard greets them, checking Michael's name off a list. "Welcome. You're in classroom B, down the hall to the left. Coffee and pastries are set up in the back. We start at 8 sharp. Steve walks Michael to the classroom door, where other participants are already gathering. A diverse group of people of various ages and backgrounds, all there for the same reason, a second chance. "You got this," Steve says, gripping Michael's shoulder. "I'll pick you up at noon. Go in there and show them what Michael Thompson is made of." Michael squares his shoulders, takes another deep breath and walks into the classroom. Steve watches through the door window as Michael introduces himself to a few other participants, as he pours himself coffee as he takes a seat and opens the welcome packet on the desk. He's engaging. He's present. He's trying. Steve drives to his own office, but his mind stays with Michael throughout the morning. He finds it hard to focus on his own work, constantly checking his phone for any messages. But none come, which he takes as a good sign. At 11:45, he heads back to the facility, arriving early. At exactly noon, participants start filing out, and Steve spots Michael in the crowd. His face is animated as he talks to another participant, a younger man with dreadlocks. When Michael sees Steve, he waves and finishes his conversation before walking over. "How was it?" Steve asks eagerly. Michael's smile is genuine and wide. "It was great, man, challenging but great. We did assessments this morning to see where everyone's skill levels are, and then they outlined the curriculum. We're going to learn updated CAD software, project management tools, even some coding basics. And the instructors, they're patient and encouraging. They get it, you know? They understand that we're all coming from different places." In the car, Michael talks non-stop about his morning, about the other participants he met, about the projects they'll be working on, about the companies that partner with the program. Steve listens with a full heart, thrilled to see this version of Michael emerging, engaged and hopeful and excited about the future. They grab lunch at a sandwich shop, and Michael insists on paying with the cash Steve gave him. "I want to," he says, when Steve tries to protest. "Let me do this." After lunch, Steve drops Michael back at the hotel with a reminder about his volunteering session later that afternoon. "You're going to be tired," Steve warns. "It's a lot in one day." Michael nods. "I know, but it's good tired. It's tired from doing something, from being productive. That's a feeling I haven't had in a long time, and I don't want to lose it." That evening, Steve gets a text from Sharon at the community center. "Michael was wonderful with the kids today. One of them asked if he could be their regular tutor. You found us a gem. Steve forwards the message to Michael with a simple note. Proud of you, brother. Michael's response comes quickly. Couldn't have done any of this without you. Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. The weeks that follow establish a rhythm. Michael throws himself into the job training program, studying in his hotel room every evening, practicing the new software, completing assignments. His therapy sessions continue to peel back layers of trauma and shame, and though it's painful work, Michael commits to it fully. His volunteering becomes a highlight of his week, and the kids at the community center start to look forward to Mr. Michael's sessions. Steve watches from a slight distance now, checking in regularly but giving Michael more independence. He sees his friend transforming, not just externally but internally. The defeated man from the street corner is being replaced by someone who walks with purpose, who makes eye contact, who smiles more easily. It's not a linear process. There are hard days when the weight of everything threatens to pull Michael back down, but he's learning to reach out when he struggles, to use his support system. 4 weeks into the program, Michael calls Steve with news. They want to set up interviews for me. 3 different companies, all looking for people with engineering backgrounds. Steve, this is real. This is actually happening. Steve can hear the disbelief and joy in his voice. That's amazing, Michael. When are the interviews? They schedule prep sessions, and Steve helps Michael practice asking tough questions, giving feedback on his answers, helping him frame his employment gap in a way that's honest but forward-looking. The first interview is with a mid-sized firm that does infrastructure consulting. Michael is terrified, but he shows up in a suit that Steve helped him pick out, with a leather portfolio containing his updated resume and references from the training program. Steve waits in the parking lot, too nervous to leave. When Michael emerges an hour later, his expression is unreadable. Then he breaks into a huge grin. I think it went well. Really well. They asked good questions, I gave good answers, and they seemed impressed with my training program work. The second and third interviews follow over the next week, each one building Michael's confidence. And then, on a Thursday afternoon, Michael gets the call. The infrastructure firm wants to offer him a position junior project coordinator with a salary that's modest but livable and room for growth. Michael is shaking when he calls Steve. They want me. They actually want me. I start in 2 weeks. Steve immediately drives to the hotel, and when Michael opens the door, they embrace like they've just won the championship. You did it, Steve says, his voice choked with emotion. You actually did it. Michael is crying and laughing at the same time. We did it. You and me and Marjorie and Dr. Williams and Sharon and everyone who believed in me. This is a team victory. That evening, Steve and Marjorie take Michael out to a nice restaurant to celebrate. It's Michael's first time in a place like this in years, and he's overwhelmed by the elegance, the attentive service, the extensive menu. Order anything you want, Steve insists. Tonight, we celebrate your comeback. Over steak and wine, they talk about next steps. With a job secured, Michael can now move into the transitional housing program. He'll have his own apartment, affordable rent, and continued support services. I can't believe how much has changed in 6 weeks, Michael says, looking between Steve and Marjorie. 6 weeks ago, I was on a street corner with nothing. Now I have a job, a place to live, purpose, hope. It feels like a dream. Marjorie reaches across the table and takes his hand. It's not a dream. It's what happens when someone gets the support they need and does the hard work of rebuilding. You should be incredibly proud of yourself. As they leave the restaurant, Michael pulls Steve aside. I think I'm ready, he says quietly. Ready to reach out to my kids. I don't know if they'll respond, but I need to try. I need them to know I'm getting my life together, that I'm becoming someone they can be proud of again. Steve nods, understanding the weight of this decision. Let's talk to Dr. Williams about it next session. She'll help you figure out the right approach. But yeah, I think you're ready too. The next therapy session with Dr. Williams is focused entirely on the question of reconnecting with Michael's children. She sits across from him in her comfortable office, her expression thoughtful and compassionate. This is a significant step, Michael. Before we talk about how, I want to explore why. Why now? What are you hoping for? Michael takes his time answering, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. I'm hoping they'll give me a chance to explain, to apologize, to show them I'm not the broken man I was when they last heard from me. I'm hoping they'll let me be part of their lives again, even in a small way. But honestly, even if they don't, I need to try. I need them to know I never stopped loving them, even when I stopped being able to show it. His voice is steady, but his eyes glisten with unshed tears. Dr. Williams nods slowly. Those are good reasons, honest reasons. Now let's talk about expectations. The reality is they may not respond, or they may respond with anger. They may need time, maybe a lot of time, before they're ready to let you back in. Are you prepared for that possibility? Michael swallows hard. I have to be. I can't control their response. I can only control my actions, my honesty, my commitment to being better. Whatever they decide, I have to respect it. That's exactly right, Dr. Williams affirms. So let's craft an approach that's respectful of their boundaries while being authentic about your journey. They spend the next hour working on what Michael will say, how he'll reach out. Dr. Williams suggests starting with a letter rather than a phone call, giving them time to process without the pressure of an immediate response. Michael agrees, and they outline the key points he wants to communicate. That evening, Michael sits in his hotel room with a blank piece of paper in front of him. He's written and discarded a dozen drafts, unable to find the right words. Finally, he calls Steve. I don't know how to do this. How do I sum up years of absence, of failure, of pain in a letter? How do I ask for forgiveness when I don't know if I deserve it? Steve talks him through it, reminding him to be honest, to take responsibility without drowning in self-pity, to focus on the present and future rather than dwelling on the past. After they hang up, Michael tries again. This time the words flow. He writes to Jessica first, his daughter, the one who used to climb into his lap and ask him to explain how bridges stayed up, who inherited his love of math and logic. He tells her about hitting rock bottom, about the years on the street, about the shame that kept him from reaching out. He tells her about Steve finding him, about the help he's received, about the job he's starting, about the man he's working to become. He doesn't make excuses. He doesn't blame circumstances entirely. He owns his choices, his pride, his failure to ask for help sooner. But he also tells her about the therapy, the volunteering, the daily work of rebuilding. He tells her he understands if she's angry, if she needs time, if she never wants to see him again. But he wants her to know he loves her, has always loved her, and is finally becoming someone worthy of being her father again. He signs it simply, Dad. He writes a similar letter to Marcus, his son, adjusting the tone slightly for their different relationship, but keeping the same core message of accountability, love, and hope. When both letters are finished, he reads them aloud to himself, then carefully folds them and places them in envelopes. He'll mail them tomorrow. Tonight he sits with the weight of what he's done, the vulnerability of reaching out, the terrifying possibility of rejection. The next morning, Steve picks Michael up, and they drive to the post office together. Michael holds the two envelopes like they're made of glass, precious and fragile. At the counter, he hesitates before handing them to the postal clerk. Once I do this, there's no taking it back, he says to Steve. That's right, Steve agrees. But that's a good thing. You're moving forward. Whatever happens next, you'll know you tried. You'll know you were brave enough to reach out. Michael nods and hands over the letters. The clerk stamps them and tosses them into a bin with dozens of other pieces of mail, and just like that, it's done. Michael's attempt at reconciliation is out in the world, making its way to California, to two young adults who may or may not be ready to hear from their father. As they walk back to the car, Michael is quiet, processing the enormity of what he's just done. How long do you think before they respond? He asks as Steve drives. If they respond at all, I mean. Steve considers this. Could be days, could be weeks, could be months. Everyone processes things at their own pace. But whatever happens, you keep moving forward with your own recovery. You don't put your life on hold waiting for their response. You keep going to therapy, keep working your new job, keep volunteering. You show them through your actions over time that you're serious about change. Michael nods, understanding the wisdom in this. You're right. I can't make my healing dependent on their forgiveness. That's not fair to them or to me. Steve glances at him with approval. Look at you, sounding like you've been in therapy for years instead of weeks. You're learning, brother. You're growing. Michael manages a small smile. I have good teachers. The following Monday, Michael starts his new job. Steve insists on driving him on his first day, wanting to be there for this milestone. They arrive at the office building, a sleek structure in Atlanta's business district, and Michael stares up at it with a mixture of excitement and terror. I haven't worked in an office in over a decade, he says, his voice tight. What if I've forgotten how? What if I don't fit in? Then you'll remember and you'll adapt, Steve says firmly. You've already proven you can learn new things, handle challenges, show up even when it's hard. This is just the next challenge. And Michael, you belong here. You earned this position. They hired you because they believe in you. Now you just have to believe in yourself. Michael takes a deep breath, squares his shoulders, and opens the car door. Steve watches him walk into the building, his posture straight, his stride confident. It's a far cry from the broken man on the street corner 2 months ago. Steve sits in the parking lot for a few extra minutes, overwhelmed with gratitude and pride. His phone buzzes with a text from Marjorie. How's he doing? Steve responds, he's doing it, he's really doing it. I'm so proud I could burst. Throughout the day, Steve resists the urge to text Michael, knowing he needs to focus on his first day. But at 5:30 his phone rings. Steve, man, I survived day 1. Michael's voice is exhausted but exhilarated. My supervisor, Janet, she's great, really patient, really supportive. The team welcomed me, showed me around, got me set up with my computer and email. I sat in on a project meeting and actually understood most of what they were talking about. The training program really prepared me. Steve feels relief wash over him. That's fantastic. I'm so glad it went well. You must be exhausted. Michael laughs, completely wiped out. But it's good exhaustion. I'm going to grab some dinner, take my meds, and crash early. I've got volunteering tomorrow afternoon and I want to be sharp for the kids. They chat for a few more minutes before hanging up, and Steve marvels at how far Michael has come, how he's juggling multiple responsibilities, how he's building a life. The weeks that follow establish Michael's new normal. He settles into his job, proving himself to be reliable, competent, and eager to learn. His co-workers warm to him, and he starts to build friendships, joining them for lunch, participating in office conversations. He continues his therapy sessions, going deeper into the work of healing his relationship with himself. His volunteering remains a constant source of joy, and the kids at the community center have fully adopted him as one of their favorite tutors. 3 weeks after mailing the letters, Michael moves into his new apartment in the transitional housing complex. It's a modest one-bedroom unit, but it's clean, safe, and his. Steve and Marjorie help him move in, bringing housewarming gifts, dishes, towels, a coffee maker, groceries to stock his fridge. As they set up his small living room, Michael keeps stopping to look around in wonder. I have a home, he says, his voice thick with emotion. An actual home with my name on the lease. Marjorie hugs him tightly. You've worked so hard for this. You deserve every bit of it. They order pizza for dinner and eat sitting on Michael's new couch, christening the space with laughter and stories. When Steve and Marjorie prepare to leave, Michael walks them to the door. I don't know how I'll ever thank you both enough. You gave me my life back. Steve shakes his head. You gave yourself your life back. We just provided some tools and support. The hard work, the daily choice to keep going, that was all you. 4 weeks after mailing the letters, Michael still hasn't heard anything from his children. He tries not to let it discourage him, but Steve can see the hope dimming slightly each day that passes without a response. Maybe they didn't get them, Michael suggests one evening over dinner. Or maybe they need more time, Steve counters gently. Or maybe they're not ready yet. But that doesn't diminish the courage it took for you to reach out. That doesn't erase the progress you've made. Michael knows Steve is right, but the silence hurts. Dr. Williams works with him on managing his expectations, on finding peace with uncertainty, on continuing to build his life regardless of his children's response. Your worth isn't determined by whether they forgive you, she reminds him. Your worth is inherent. You're doing the work of becoming a better man for yourself first, for them second. Then on a Tuesday evening, 6 weeks after mailing the letters, Michael's phone rings with a California number he doesn't recognize. His heart stops. He stares at the screen, paralyzed. It rings 3 times before he answers with a shaking hand. "Hello?" There's a pause, then a female voice, older than he remembers, but unmistakably familiar. "Dad? It's Jessica." Michael's legs give out, and he sits down hard on his couch. "Jessica. Oh my God, Jessica." His voice breaks completely. "Hi, Dad." She sounds cautious, guarded, but she's there, she's on the phone, she called. "I got your letter, Marcus did too, we've been talking about it, trying to figure out what to do, what to say." Michael wipes his eyes, trying to compose himself enough to speak coherently. "I understand. I know I have no right to expect anything from you. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, that I love you, that I'm trying to be better." Jessica is quiet for a moment. "Your letter, it was honest, raw. I appreciated that. I'm still angry, Dad. I'm still hurt. You disappeared from our lives. You chose alcohol and pride over us." Her words cut deep, but Michael knows they're deserved. "You're right. You're absolutely right. I made terrible choices, and you and Marcus paid the price. I can't undo that. I can only try to do better going forward." They talk for over an hour, Jessica asking questions about his homelessness, his recovery, his current situation. Michael answers honestly, holding nothing back. He tells her about Steve, about the therapy, about his job and his volunteering. He tells her about the daily work of staying on track. "Marcus wants to talk to you too," Jessica finally says, "but he's not ready yet. He's angrier than I am, more hurt. Give him time." Michael's heart aches for his son, but he understands. "Of course. Whatever he needs. And you, Jessica, what do you need from me?" She's quiet for a long moment. "I need consistency. I need to see that this isn't temporary, that you're really committed to change. I need time to trust you again." "That's fair," Michael says. "I'll be here. I'll keep showing up, keep doing the work, and if you want, I'd love to stay in touch. Calls, texts, whatever you're comfortable with." Jessica agrees to weekly phone calls, a small step, but a significant one. When they finally hang up, Michael immediately calls Steve, barely able to get the words out through his tears. "She called." Jessica called. "We talked for over an hour. Steve, she's willing to give me a chance." Steve is at Michael's apartment within 20 minutes, and they sit together, processing this breakthrough. "This is huge, Michael. This is what you've been working toward." Michael nods, overwhelmed. "I know, but it's also terrifying. What if I mess it up? What if I let her down again?" Steve grips his shoulder. "Then you'll apologize and try again. But you won't mess it up. You're not the same man you were. You've done the work. You're doing the work. Just keep being honest, keep showing up, keep being the father you're capable of being." Over the following weeks, Michael and Jessica establish a routine of Sunday evening phone calls. They're careful with each other at first, conversations staying surface level and safe, but gradually they go deeper. Jessica tells him about her job as a teacher, about her boyfriend, about her life. Michael shares about his work, his volunteering, his continued therapy. He sends her photos of the kids he tutors, of his apartment, of his office, small windows into his rebuilt life. 2 months after that first phone call, Jessica tells him that Marcus is ready to talk. The conversation with his son is harder, more confrontational. Marcus doesn't hold back his anger, his sense of abandonment, his resentment. Michael listens without defending himself, acknowledging every hurt, every missed moment, every broken promise. "I can't change the past," he tells his son. "I can only commit to being present in the future if you'll let me." Marcus doesn't commit to anything, but he doesn't hang up either. It's a start. Over time, the conversations become slightly less tense. Marcus begins to ask questions about Michael's recovery, about his homelessness, about what it was like. Michael answers honestly, and slowly, very slowly, he can feel his son's anger beginning to soften into something more complex, a mixture of hurt and curiosity and cautious hope. 6 months after Steve found Michael on that street corner, they sit together at a coffee shop. The same one where they talked after Michael's first therapy session. So much has changed since then. Michael has been at his job for 4 months and has already received positive performance reviews. He's been promoted from junior coordinator to full coordinator, with a raise that allows him to start saving money. His apartment is fully furnished now, decorated with photos and personal touches that make it feel like home. His relationship with his children continues to develop. Jessica has started sending him photos, including him in her life in small ways. Marcus has agreed to a video call, the first time Michael will see his son's face in years. The call is scheduled for next week, and Michael is both excited and terrified. His therapy continues, though less frequently now, every other week instead of weekly. Dr. Williams has told him he's doing remarkable work, that his progress is inspiring. "I've been thinking," Michael says, stirring his coffee, "about what you said months ago about my story helping other people. I think I'm ready to share it. Not for attention or sympathy, but because if my experience can give hope to even one person who's where I was, it's worth it." Steve smiles, proud of his friend's courage. "I think that's beautiful. How do you want to share it?" Michael has been considering this. "Maybe I could speak at the community center, share my story with the kids and their families. Let them know that setbacks don't have to be permanent, that it's never too late to turn things around. And maybe if you're comfortable with it, we could share it more broadly. A video, an interview, something that reaches people who are struggling or who know someone who's struggling." Steve nods enthusiastically. "I'm absolutely comfortable with it. In fact, I think it's important. There are thousands of Michaels out there, people who just need someone to see them, to believe in them, to give them a chance. Your story shows what's possible when compassion meets determination." They spend the next hour planning how to share Michael's journey, how to frame it in a way that's honest but hopeful, that acknowledges the pain, but emphasizes the possibility of redemption. 2 weeks later, Michael stands in front of a crowd at the community center. The room is packed with kids, parents, volunteers, and staff. Steve sits in the front row with Marjorie, offering silent support. Michael's hands shake as he holds his notes, but his voice is steady as he begins. "6 months ago, I was homeless. I was sitting on a street corner with a sign, invisible to thousands of people who walked past me every day. I had lost everything, my career, my family, my dignity, my hope." The room is completely silent as Michael shares his story. He doesn't sugarcoat the hard parts, the addiction, the pride, the years of poor choices. But he also talks about the moment Steve recognized him, about the decision to accept help, about the daily work of rebuilding. He talks about the therapy, the job training, the volunteering. He talks about reconnecting with his children, about the long road of earning back trust. "I'm not telling you this story because I want sympathy," Michael says, his eyes scanning the crowd. "I'm telling you because I want you to know that it's never too late. It's never too late to ask for help. It's never too late to change direction. It's never too late to become who you're meant to be. And if you're someone who has the power to help, I'm asking you to see the invisible people, to remember that everyone has a story, everyone has worth, everyone deserves a chance." When he finishes, the room erupts in applause. Several people are crying, including Sharon, the center director. Kids rush up to hug Mr. Michael, telling him how brave he is, how proud they are of him. Parents shake his hand, thanking him for his honesty. One woman pulls him aside and whispers, "My brother is homeless. I've been trying to help him, but he keeps pushing me away. Your story gives me hope that he might turn things around someday." Steve watches all of this, with tears streaming down his face. This is why he stopped that day. This is why he couldn't drive past that street corner, not just to save one man, but to unleash the ripple effect of that one act of compassion. Michael's story will inspire others to help, will give hope to people who are struggling, will remind everyone that we're all connected, all responsible for each other. That evening, Steve and Michael sit on the balcony of Michael's apartment, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. The city lights twinkle in the darkness and the air is cool and comfortable. "Thank you," Michael says quietly, "for everything, for seeing me, for remembering me, for refusing to give up on me, for giving me my life back." Steve shakes his head. "You keep thanking me, but brother, you did the hard part. You showed up every day. You did the work. You chose to fight for your life. I just opened a door. You're the one who walked through it." They sit in comfortable silence for a while, two friends who found each other again against impossible odds. Finally, Michael speaks. "What you did for me, I want to do for others. Once I'm more stable, once I have more resources, I want to help people who are where I was. I want to be someone's Steve Harvey." Steve smiles in the darkness. "That's the whole point, isn't it? We receive help so we can give help. We're healed so we can help heal others. That's how we change the world, one person at a time. The next week, Michael has his video call with Marcus. It's emotional and difficult, but they see each other's faces for the first time in years. Marcus is a grown man now, with his father's eyes and his mother's smile. They talk for 2 hours, and while there's still tension, there's also connection. At the end of the call, Marcus says something that makes Michael's heart soar. Maybe I could come visit sometime, see your place, meet your friends, see this new life you're building. Michael immediately calls Steve with the news. He wants to visit. My son wants to come see me. Steve can hear the joy and disbelief in his voice. That's incredible, Michael. When? They discuss logistics, and Steve offers to help with plane tickets, with showing Marcus around Atlanta, with whatever Michael needs. This is really happening, Michael says, wonder in his voice. My family is coming back together. Slowly, carefully, but it's happening. 3 months later, Marcus does visit. It's a weekend trip, and it's not perfect. There are awkward moments, difficult conversations, old wounds that resurface. But there are also good moments. Marcus comes to watch Michael volunteer at the community center and sees the impact his father is having on kids' lives. He meets Steve and Marjorie and thanks them for helping his dad. He sees Michael's apartment, his workplace, the life he's rebuilt from nothing. On Marcus's last evening in Atlanta, he and Michael sit in that same coffee shop where Michael and Steve have had so many important conversations. I'm still processing everything, Dad, Marcus says honestly. I'm still hurt. But I can see you're trying, I can see you're different, and I want to believe this is permanent, that you're really back. Michael reaches across the table and takes his son's hand. I am back and I'm not going anywhere. I'll spend the rest of my life proving that to you if I have to. A year after Steve found Michael on that street corner, they organize a reunion. Jessica flies in from California, and Marcus drives up from where he's now living in Florida. Steve and Marjorie host a dinner at their home, and Michael's supervisor Janet comes, along with Sharon from the community center and Dr. Williams. It's a celebration of Michael's journey, but also a celebration of community, of the power of people coming together to lift someone up. As they sit around the dinner table, sharing food and stories and laughter, Steve raises his glass. I want to make a toast. A year ago, I almost drove past a street corner. I almost didn't stop, but something made me look twice, made me recognize an old friend, made me pull over. That decision changed Michael's life, but it also changed mine. It reminded me why success matters, not for what it gives us, but for what it allows us to give others. Michael, you've inspired all of us with your courage, your honesty, your determination. Here's to you, brother. Here's to second chances. Here's to never giving up. Everyone raises their glasses and Michael stands, emotion overwhelming him. I don't have fancy words. I just have gratitude. Gratitude for Steve and Marjorie, who saw me when I was invisible. Gratitude for Dr. Williams, who helped me heal. Gratitude for Sharon and the kids who gave me purpose. Gratitude for Janet and my co-workers who gave me a chance. And gratitude for my children, who are giving me the greatest gift of all, the opportunity to be their father again. A year ago I had nothing. Today I have everything that matters. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for saving my life. There isn't a dry eye in the room. Jessica and Marcus stand and hug their father, and in that moment, Steve sees the full circle of redemption. A man who was lost has been found. A man who was broken has been made whole. A family that was shattered is being pieced back together. And it all started with one simple act: stopping the car, looking closer, seeing the human being behind the circumstances. As the evening winds down and guests begin to leave, Michael pulls Steve aside one last time. I've been offered a promotion at work, senior project coordinator, managing a small team. It comes with a significant raise and more responsibility. A year ago, I couldn't have imagined this. But here's the thing, I want to use some of that extra money to start a fund. A fund to help other people who are where I was. Help with hotel rooms, with job training, with therapy, with whatever they need to get back on their feet. I want to call it the Second Chance Fund. What do you think? Steve pulls his friend into a tight embrace. I think it's perfect. I think it's exactly what you're supposed to do, and I'll match whatever you put in, dollar for dollar. We'll do this together. Michael's eyes fill with tears again, but they're tears of joy, of purpose. of a life reclaimed and redirected toward meaning. Together, he agrees, just like we've done everything else. As Steve and Marjorie drive home that night, they're both quiet, processing the evening, the year, the transformation they've witnessed. Finally, Marjorie speaks. You know what the most beautiful part of this story is? It's not just that you saved Michael. It's that Michael is now going to save others. That's how change spreads. That's how we heal the world, one person at a time, each one reaching back to help the next. Steve nods, his heart full. That's exactly right. And somewhere out there right now, there's another Michael sitting on another street corner, waiting for someone to see them, waiting for someone to remember they're human, they matter, they're worth saving. I hope someone stops. I hope someone looks twice. I hope someone extends a hand. Because everyone deserves a second chance. Everyone deserves to be seen. The story of Steve Harvey and Michael Thompson spreads beyond that dinner party. A video of Michael's speech at the community center goes viral, touching millions of people. News outlets pick up the story. Other celebrities and everyday people alike are inspired to look for the invisible people in their own communities, to offer help, to create their own second chance funds. The ripple effect of one act of compassion on one Atlanta street corner continues to spread, touching lives in ways Steve and Michael will never fully know. But they don't need to know the full extent of the impact. They know what matters, that love is stronger than despair, that community is more powerful than isolation, that it's never too late to turn your life around, and that sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is simply to see them, to remember them, to believe in them when they can't believe in themselves. That's the real miracle, not the transformation itself, but the decision to care enough to make transformation possible. Hey, my friends. Help me by subscribing to the channel so we can reach 1,000 subscribers. Even if you're watching from your TV or computer, your subscription makes all the difference, and the algorithm will help you see more amazing stories. Leave a like or an emoji in the comments and be part of this growth.